Hey guys, so today I'm going to record a tutorial video for you. So this is a little bit different to what I usually do. I'm talking from the past to you guys today and not on a live stream. But I decided to try this and see how it works for once because I felt like uploading the recorded live streams was a little bit, these are super long videos, and I was asking myself who would watch these, probably to get some quick and very condensed tips on how to improve their art or on how I build my artworks. So yeah, I decided to try a video tutorial this time, and yeah, let's see how it goes. If you have any feedback on this, please put them in the comments on Patreon and then or on YouTube, wherever you're watching this. I would be really happy to get your feedback on this. So if you prefer this over written tutorials, for example, or if you'd like to have it 50-50 in the future, so some of your feedback would be really valuable for me to build this tutorial section in the future. So yeah, let's try this. Let's see how it works. I hope I'm able to not talk so much bullshit, but valuable stuff in short time as well as in the usual live streams. And yeah, what I have for you today is I want to give you a little walkthrough for my piece I did for Adidas. And maybe you've seen this on Instagram or on my Discord. I have been commissioned by Adidas to draw a piece for their campaign around the OZWORLD shoe, or the OZWORLD project. And this is a very special project for me, because not only because it was just really fun to do and it was a great commission, but I thought that I could take this for the tutorial because I had to do this in a very short time. So the deadline for this was very the turnaround time was very quick. And I think it will give you some cool insights and maybe some good advice, hopefully, for how to handle and how to treat client projects that have a short turnaround time, where you have to really quickly come up with an idea. And I just want to give you a little insight into my personal process, my approach to such commissions here. So first of all, let me tell you a little bit about how the project went from start. So Adidas asked me 2 weeks ago if I was up for a commission for their social media campaign, and they instantly told me this would have a really tight deadline. This is of course something that happens regularly, especially when you are working on editorial design. It is sometimes really tight to make an artwork in just a short amount of time, just a few days, maybe even some hours. But it's something you have to get used to in the business. It's just part of it. And the trick is to, of course, come up with ideas quick and to get results. And I'm going to show you how I do that. First of all, let's quickly head into the briefing I got by Adidas. So the first thing they gave me was just take this shoe, this Oswego shoe, and do something in your style, which is a very loose briefing. And there's good loose briefings, and there's bad ones. This one was a good one because the client really wanted me to do this, just make my thing, right? There's also the bad side of these briefings, and it's not so easy to identify which side your client or your potential client is on. Usually I ask a couple of extra questions when it comes to this kind of briefings. And when I realized that someone is just telling you to just do what you want because they don't have an idea themselves, it's a red flag for me, where I have to get into the detail and get into discussion before I start working, because these are the projects where you really often have problems afterwards, when the client realizes that what you made wasn't what they wanted, but they didn't know what they wanted in the first place. That's a problem. That's a discrepancy that you have to even out. In this case, it was nice and fine. I told them, okay, if this is fine with you, we have little time. I'll just do what I want, but I keep you very, very included and very tightly updated in my process. Something that I always do because it involves clients and gives them updates that they can take, that they can have give you feedback on, and that they can use to control and organize the process. So yeah, that was kind of the briefing, and the only things that they gave me as input was that I had to use the shoe, that it had to be the exact colors of the shoe model they had, and that they wanted to have a story ratio, like for Instagram stories, 9:16, and portrait size, which means 3:4, I think. Yeah, 3:4. This is of course very important information, or very important to take into account when building the layout of the illustration, because it means that the main action has to take part in the very middle of the image, of the final image, while these parts here on top and the bottom that you see in the 9:16 story have to be secondary. So it has to work both in portrait size as well as in story size. Sounds easy, but it isn't sometimes when you build a layout. I'm going to show you in my process how I solved that. So, challenge accepted, I guess. And let's go into the process. This is where one of my basic creative principles, idea generation principles, comes to play, I guess. Because what I like to do when I need something fast, when I need to build a concept fast, or also when I am having a lack of ideas, for example, and I need I want to do something but don't know what, I have a couple of things that I know I'm good at, and that I know people usually like, people follow me for, and where I feel extremely comfortable in doing this and in using this for my illustrations. And one of these principles, or one of these things, is isometric illustrations. And I think here, as I needed something fast, and also needed to build this scene that worked with that worked as a story and a portrait size, or even a square. I think isometric scenes are perfect for this, because you can easily extend them to like upper and lower parts here, build the buildings and the structures a little bit further, but still concentrate on a center part, and it doesn't look weird in the wide or in the very high image, and it kind of still feels dense. You can add details everywhere without like losing the focus on the middle part, which is great. So yeah, it's kind of a win-win for me to go with something isometric here, because I know I can work fast. I will come up with ideas how to fill the whole image with elements very fast. So yeah, something I quickly decided to. And my goal was to send a scribbled idea to Adidas within the first 24 hours. So they had something to look at very fast, and they knew I was working on it, and they knew I had a general idea that they could review and give me feedback on. So this is my very first scribble here, very, very loose. My goal was to just find a placement for the shoe, of course, here, and to fill in some basic structures, some basic composition that I felt would work great and be in balance for the whole scene. This is a bit too rough to send it to clients. Could easily lead to misunderstandings or so, because there's just not enough details in it, and it just looks a bit too weird. This stage is really just for me. So what I usually do is then make another more detailed scribble, this one here, that is basically kind of the same as the first one, but has of course much more details and gives a better impression about what this is going to look like in the end, how the compositions work out. Sometimes, not every time, but sometimes I add also some values here. I did it just to illustrate that we will have probably one part where I think I layered the whole structure, the whole composition into two parts. This is the first part here, the kind of the foreground, if you want to say so, with the shoe. And I just wanted to illustrate that this part will be a bit brighter, have like a little that it has a little contrast to the other part here we see here, with some darker areas. So I wanted to use this effect to make the shoe pop out even more. So it kind of stands on a highest part of the more brighter part here. Maybe the color would be a bit different here in the background part. So I had this shoe really like on a kind of podest that would make it more visible, make it look more cool, and give the shoe this kind of important and pointed out positioning. So this was the reason I added some values here, very quick, very roughly marked in there, of course. So I sent this to the client to review, and good thing is they gave me very quick feedback. For me, it's extremely important to include the client in this sketching process, or this part of the process, because I mean, in this case, they said, okay, you can go on, which is great feedback, of course, for me, and a great proof for me to that I can keep up the work. But even though if there's feedback where a client wants to make some changes, it's not a problem in this stage. Like for example, they want the shoe to be larger. No problem, we can do that. Or they want to remove this Oz sign here. No problem. It's no big deal, as long as it happens in this scribbling scene and not when I'm done with the outlines. Because when it happens there's more time needed on my side. It costs the client more in the end because I need more hours than probably agreed on. So that's what I'm doing the scribbles for, and that's why I'm including the client very closely in this part of the process. The next thing to do is rather simple actually, because it's just about to redraw or trace the shoe model. So I had a little help here in this stage from a friend called Jacques Zikian. He is a 3D illustrator, 3D artist, and he exported the model for me in the isometric perspective. And so, I mean, this one is quite simple. I needed the shoe to be very precisely looking like the original, because that was very important for Adidas, of course. For the brush, I choose my Tony Montana brush. My regular stream watchers will know that this is one of my favorite, maybe the favorite brush I have in my brush pack. So I use it here because I think it's a great combination between roughness and cleanliness for these isometric illustrations. For all of these I'm using Tony a lot. Yeah, and then it's just tracing. As you see here, very many little details. All these little stitches are maybe interesting because I put them on a separate layer to be able to easily give them another color in the end. So it's kind of the outlines of the shoe on one layer and all the stitches and all the little threads on a separate layer. I already mentioned Jack, who helped me render this shoe model in the right perspective, but he did much more than that actually. And this is something very special about this artwork in particular, and something I hope to include into my work more often in the future, because we already talked about in the past about building 3D scenes in Blender as a preparation for my isometric scenes, or not only isometric but also like other environment scenes. And the reason for that is that I think building a 3D scene is really fantastic because you're able to change the perspective. You have, of course, the whole vanishing points correct, and you can move around in a scene to find the right perspective. Instead of with only 2D art, you have the problem that you have to work with what you draw, right? You can't really change the viewer's eye or something. And we've been talking about that, Jack and I, and for this project I kind of thought it would be a cool opportunity to save a bit of time on my end and to start working on that. And he gave me some introduction to Blender. I hope we can continue that in the future. But for this one, he helped me build the scene in 3D after my scribble. So he took my scribble and built this basic model. The great thing about that is that when I'm outlining later on, I can just trace the basic shapes here and then go and add details where I want them to make it look more organic. So I have like the clean shapes completely right in the right perspective. Also, it's for shading, it's fantastic because you see here there's shadows in there. Something like that is quite simple, so I would easily find the line of this shadow, of course, myself when drawing without the help of this 3D model. But when it comes to the shape of the shoe here, for example, or like round shapes here, especially here on the rotor fans here, that's stuff where a 3D model helps me really much. And in this case, it saved me a lot of time, of course, because parallel to Jacques working on this, I could, for example, trace the shoe and prepare other stuff, find the color palette already, stuff like that. So this is really special part of the process for this, and I hope to be able to include this even more in the future and to learn a bit of Blender, of course, which would be fantastic. So to close this little tutorial, let's quickly have a look at the colors I used here. So the little special part, or the sometimes a little bit challenging part, of course, was the shoe color that has these beige, gray, yellowish gray kind of tones. And so my challenge kind of was to mix and match these colors with the rest of like what I wanted to have for the illustration, of course. And not every color is really fitting to that. My approach I explained in the beginning, like to take something that you feel comfortable with when you have to get quick results, to not kind of get into an unknown process where you don't know if the outcome will work out or not, is taking like action here as well for the colors, because I wanted to go with some purple, with some pink, some blue, kind of in this direction. And I was a bit afraid or like had some concerns if these colors would work well compared or combined with the shoe colors, because obviously if this wouldn't have worked out, there would have been the need to try something new. And of course I'm able to use other colors than purple. Some of you won't believe this, but it is possible for me. But still, I'm feeling very, very comfortable with using purple and everything around that. But I was very, very glad to find out this resonated very well. And I also found a really cool way to make the shoe stand out really much. So I used the purple and the reds and pinks and blues to be like, or to fill the whole background, the whole scene. And then through this, the beige and the gray of the shoe was sticking out really much, and it popped really nicely. To not use the shoe colors only in the shoe, which will look a little bit weird maybe, I tried to pick up these and add these to some areas here. For example, for these pieces, for these. As you see, I sometimes use like three stripes here as well to have a little hidden reference to the Adidas logo, to the three stripes principle. As well here in the fans here, I reused this color so it would be visible in other parts of the illustration in just small details. This is something I use a lot, like have a focus piece or a piece or an area of the illustration that is very important, that sticks out color-wise, and then use this color very dosed in other areas of the artwork. So this is what I did here. Yeah, and in the end, it's still a very nice purple illustration, something I can always appreciate, of course. All right, guys. Yeah, so this was my introduction into my process for this commission, and I hope you like it. Please, like mentioned, I would be really happy about any feedback you can give me. You can roast me if you want, if you didn't enjoy it at all, and if you want written tutorials in the future and not see my face all the time, please let me know. I'm really appreciating all feedback of yours, and I will most certainly be back with more of these tutorials if you dig it. So have a nice day, guys. Bye bye. Thanks for watching. Cheers.